Now, as I get to explain these things in Bible prophecy, God said they're going to plant that tabernacles into the sea. Into the sea. They couldn't have taken and beat Pakistan. They couldn't take Afghanistan had God left the hedges completely around Joe. But by him removing the hedge, I mean he gonna let him do, allow him to do what he want to do. But this was to let the peoples know who these rich nation was, who was spoken of in Bible prophecy, who was the Gentiles. This was God, what God was letting them do. So, so the black horse, who have a power of balance to God is myself, is the judge. Now, they're attacking these with weapons of mass destruction because God's people is going to push them to the limit. They, the ones that held their integrity towards God, they're going to remain faithful to God. Why? Why? Let's go back. And we wonder why do these people suicide bomb and on them place suicide bomb on themselves and blow themselves up. Well, you look at this. God built a hedge around the seed of Abraham. This was all they had. It was just like a grain of mustard seed. They couldn't migrate to this part. They couldn't migrate north. They couldn't migrate west. They couldn't migrate south. Even though they go, but they come, but they cannot go and establish them a nation somewhere else. That nation is given to them right here. During the conquest of Alexander the Great, as he fought against empires of Persia and all of them, the Persians was descendants out of Ham. They was descendants out of Ham, and many of them became a mixed race. But the seed part of this, which came out of Ham, you look at the Bible prophecy. All these here is in Genesis chapter 10, the dividing of the nations in the earth, in Genesis chapter 10. Well, when the Gentiles came down through here and pushed him, which came out of Nimrod, which was the Assyrians, who created Babylon here in Assyria for the Gentiles, other Gentiles, they had to migrate back here. So they was pushed back here to Pakistan. When soldiers is on by and they have all of them that don't stay and fight, they retreat. So many retreated back to Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India and China. So that makes the Indians, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and most Vietnamese and China, all of it, many of these is distant relatives to the Negroes, American Negroes, as we call them, or the black peoples in Africa, because they came from the exact same family tree which came out of the seed of Ham. Search the Bible prophecy. Look at the migration pattern, and you'll find these to be true facts. Even though the Chinese is a mixed breed people, but the majority of their seed part came from the seed of Ham. Therefore, it shows you they have a genetic trait, common trait, the same as the seed of Abraham, and they embodies the Polish nation because they came. This is the pedigree from which many of the Chinese came from. So, what this tells us, there is a genetic connection between the Chinese and Arab. There's a genetic connection between the Chinese and the seed of Abraham. The only way that the Gentiles can take control of this earth, they have to exterminate every seed of man who is a true pedigree, who has a father who came from Adam and a mother who came from Adam. The Gentiles now have a father came from Adam, but the bottom is left uncovered. They refuse to allow, they reject all the females who interbred with a person of another nation other than out of the nation that came out of the pedigree of the Gentiles. So therefore, the Gentiles who was not in the book of life, the mindset is to destroy and conquer everybody whose name is written in the book of life. That includes the Chinese, India, the seed of Abraham, Africa, and all nations that can claim themselves to be under them. I want to just give you a fundamental breakdown before we go to these parts to show you what's going to happen here. Now, if you look at the migration pattern of the Chinese, of the nations came out of Nimrod, which migrated down here and went there. They could easily come up through South Asia and come over here in the United States of America and become American Indians. That tells you that's a mixed race people, but the majority of them would come from a pedigree which would come from either Ham or Shem, male part. Because the male part of the Gentiles kept migrating up north. And when they came down together, but many of them could not migrate all the way down to the south part of the United States of America. These had to migrate up towards Canada because of their lack of pigmentation. But when you see the Indians, American Indians that migrated down southwards, these who had the color in their skin, these could easily, they came out of the seed part of Ham. They have a close distant cousin from Africa, not and a mixture of the children out of the Gentiles. But the majority part of them came from the origin of both Ham and Shem. This is where I'm going with this here. So what is this telling us? The Gentiles who had all the knowledge, they became the industrialized nation of the earth. These are the ones that became the enemy of God because they began to steal the grace of God from these peoples. These are the people that these Gentiles who was out of Ham and Shem, they was making them people to serve them, the Gentiles, as if they was God, through craftsmanship. But Japanese is enhancing their ability. Chinese enhance their ability through technology. Now, they began coming up there to the world. So how would they shut these nations down? God took and created his kingdom. He got all the food order here. All the oil reserves have been exploited throughout the earth. This here part here is the majority of the oil, and down in South America is another part where it's a smaller portion of crude oil. This is the heartbeat to the industrialized world. So these nations of the Gentiles is about, they need these in order to maintain their strength and their will. This is what we're looking at today.